Hi, this is Chet here from Avion Technology here in the Chicagoland area. We are a digital agency which works in three vectors. The first is we are a white label programming partner for a lot of other digital agencies. The second is we work with entrepreneurs, helping them take their ideas to market. And the third is we work with a lot of local small businesses to help enhance their digital presence. So today's topic actually covers all these three different sectors that we operate in, and it's actually cybersecurity. Uh, a little kind of vignette. When I started working, cybersecurity was not a big deal because there was not a lot of cyber, right? Back in 2004, 2005, the internet was still nascent. It was just about 10 years old, and most things were actually offline. So I don't know how many of you know this, but we kind of print out our boarding passes at home now. If we are flying, we can actually do all of that at home. But back when I was growing up, I was in college. You actually had to go to the airport, which some of us still do, and you used to get like a ticket, which had it was actually like a small booklet, right? Your airplane ticket was like a small booklet, and it had the boarding passes in it and all that. So now what has happened, majority of the world has now moved online, but a drawback of that is, uh, just as you have good people and bad people offline, you have good people and bad people online. And so cybersecurity has achieved a paramount importance. Uh, Usually when I sit down to talk about cybersecurity with a lot of my clients, most of them are very misinformed about it. So they ask me, what can we do to prevent this? And the first thing that I tell them is that with hacking, and under hacking there's a lot of things, right? There's hacking, there's ransomware, and you have DDoS attacks, and you have malware. So there's I would say all of this comes under the purview of cybersecurity. The first thing you have to know is that it's not a question of if it'll happen, it's just a question of when it'll happen, right? There have been cyber attacks on, if you remember, there was the famous Sony, Sony, the Japanese conglomerate, was hacked. The Sony Films, Sony Entertainment was hacked. I think in 2018, Target, the retailer Target, got hacked. And these are billion-dollar corporations, right? With IT budget and staff and thousands of people in their IT department, and they get hacked, right? So the chances of someone like you and me, especially on the kind of budgets that we work with, to not be hacked, it's a lot of times it's just that we have been lucky so far. So the first thing that I tell when I'm sitting down with most of my clients to review their cybersecurity issues is that it's not a question of if you will get hacked, it's just a question of when you will get hacked, right? So with that in mind, you have to create systems of mitigation, right? It's called DM and DR, disaster mitigation and disaster recovery, and also disaster prevention, right? So you have to have systems in place to prevent these intruders from coming in, yes. But once they're in, you gotta have systems where they can't reach for the locker, they can't reach for the vault. So even if they're inside, they cannot get anything tangible. And God forbid if they do get something tangible, you have to have what is called DR, which is disaster recovery. So you operate on three vectors, right? Disaster prevention, disaster mitigation, and disaster recovery, right? So then the first thing you do is actually, in a small business, is you sit down with a consultant or your MSP or whoever it is, and for God's sake, create a security framework, right? Most small businesses do not have a security framework. What do I mean by security framework, right? See which OS you guys are using, operating system you guys are using. See which firewall you guys are using. See which antivirus you are using, whether it's updated, whether it's virus profiles, virus definitions have been updated or not. I walk into a business sometimes and you meet the owner and he's on an operating system which is latest, but the antivirus has not been updated for 3 years. So it doesn't have any of the latest virus profiles on it. And that's useless. It's essentially like having no antivirus at all. So the first thing you have to do as a business owner is take cybersecurity seriously, and to do that you need to have a security framework in place, a written policy document about how you're going to do, disaster prevention, disaster mitigation, and then disaster recovery. Once you've created that security framework, then you start talking to your consultant about tools, right? What should I use as a firewall? Should I use a VPN to log in? Should I use an antivirus? If it's an antivirus, should I use Kaspersky? Should I use McAfee? Should I use Norton? Which one's the best one in the market? So then you kind of start figuring out what are the tools that you can use to make sure none of this happens. So you first start out with the security framework, then you kind of create a list of all the tools that you will use. Then the third thing is audit, right? And this is something that your consultant or your MSP can do for you. Is at the end of each month or each quarter, come and actually do an audit to see if, a lot of times there's security breaches which have happened and you don't even realize that. You go onto a website to buy a travel ticket, and that website actually opens up another website in an iframe, and then you go to the third website and you don't even know what that website is, and your computer is broadcasting so much data to this third website: your location, your operating system, this your browser, your user profile. There's so many things that your system is broadcasting to an unknown site, and they in turn, this is a little advanced, but there's something called cross-site scripting, where a website mimics another website. So it actually, you think you're going in one place, but you're actually going somewhere else. And when you go to that site, there's a host of Trojans and malware that are being injected into your website, and you don't even know about it. You probably don't know this, but all your passwords are already with some hacker somewhere in the world, and he's just waiting to strike. There are softwares out there which track your keywords, which track what you're typing. And at the end of the day, someone somewhere in the world gets a complete list of everything that you've typed in Google, of all the sites that you've visited. And all of this probably is already there in your system. So cybersecurity is extremely important. So please sit down with your consultant and do an audit. And the consultant will tell you, he will run a couple of programs to see, what have the breaches been, what are the Trojans that have been, that have infected your system. Another thing that I always advise is to do a drill. So just like a fire drill, right? The reason why we do a fire drill is because, when a fire emergency does happen, you don't want to be thinking at that point. You want to be doing, right? There's a difference between thinking and doing. And the reason why we do drills is that the emergency evacuation procedure is in our muscle memory. And when a real emergency happens, you're not thinking what you should do, you're actually doing something. It's the same for cybersecurity. When someone comes and hacks into your system and he's taken your system ransom, you don't want to be thinking at that point as to what you're doing. You should be doing something. And for that, please have quarterly, preferably monthly or at least quarterly drills to see how your organization will perform in the event of a contingency. So this gets me to two important things, and this is something that again you should discuss with your consultant. One is called RTO, which is recovery time objective, and the second is RPO, which is recovery point objective. And it's a part of disaster recovery. So when the ransomware does happen, your systems do get hacked. In the policy document that you have created, you should have a recovery time objective, which says that in the event of a hacking, within 12 hours, my systems will be back. Or a recovery point objective, which says that we will have 99.9% of our data recovered. So this is what is called RTO, which is recovery time objective, and RPO, which is recovery point objective. And this should be very well defined in your security document. So I'll come to the last point, and this is how I end all my meetings with my clients about cybersecurity. So when I say that it's not a question of if a breach will happen, it's a question only of when it will happen. The clients usually are very scared. They're like, what do we do now? And I say, plan for the day after, right? Which means create a business continuity plan, a BCP. Plan for a situation where everything is down, your system has been hacked, your data has been lost, and come up with a solution, a plan for how your business will conduct, or how you will still be in business the day after that event. Because remember this is going to happen. There are a lot of nefarious actors all over the world whose only source of money, income, employment is stealing data, is to do phishing attacks and steal your password, your bank information, is to capture your laptop and then ask for money in bitcoins. And the only thing that will ensure that you don't suffer in this is having a security plan, and most importantly, having a business continuity plan. Within the business continuity plan, there are a lot of things like taking timely backups, updating your virus profile, installing a firewall. There's a lot of other things. But at least I think this lecture should give you the basics of how you can protect yourself and your organization. If this has helped you, do write us. This is our contact information. Give us a shout. We'd love to discuss more with you. This is Chet here from Avion Technology here in the Chicagoland area, and wishing all of you a very happy weekend. Thank you.